Hey guys, what's up? Serena here from thriftdiving.com. Welcome back to part 8 of how I'm reupholstering this wingback chair from the thrift store. It was 60 bucks, and if you've been following this series, I've been documenting everything that I've been doing in upholstery class for this chair, and it's been, oh my gosh, it's been what, 10 months? We have torn this chair down to the studs, and at this point I feel like I could probably build a chair from scratch. But anyway, I've been documenting this with the help of a great upholstery teacher, and at the end of this series, I will be telling you where you can take these upholstery classes. But anyway, in part 7, this is where we left off. We finished the front of the chair, and now it was time to move on to the inner parts of the arm. So check down below for part 7 for that information. So the next thing we needed to do was to put some coconut fiber, some dacron, and some cotton batting on the insides of the arms. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pictures and videos of that step, but just know that we layered it in on the inside part of that arm. And then in part 7, you saw where I'd stapled the fabric to the arm. Now it was time to put that fabric over top of the arm. And this is what we had to do. Now, it's very hard to explain how we did this because I didn't even understand. But as you can see here, we had to make a series of cuts to go around the wood. And this is where I really struggled, because I couldn't quite figure out where the cuts needed to be. I knew that they needed to be around the wood, but I didn't know, okay, do I cut it here? Do I cut it there? You know, it's a science. It's a science knowing exactly how to fit this fabric around the wood. And so, yeah, I got a little lost and a little sloppy, but overall, when it was done, the teacher had done a great job in fixing these sides for me and helping me to really understand, you know, how to pull this fabric through all those spaces so that it would fit like a glove. But one of the big takeaways with upholstery that I've learned in these classes is that, you know, getting a nice tight fit and a nice clean fit is all about cutting those V's, being able to know exactly where you need to cut, and sometimes even measuring, sometimes being able to just eyeball it and being able to cut around and fit that fabric nice and tight and securely around those pieces of wood. So anyway, when we were done, it looked really good, and I was ready to move on to the next step, which was finishing off the wings of the chair. And the wings are going to have the same kind of layers. It's going to do the coconut fiber first, followed by the cotton batting, and then the dacron. But we also have to pay attention to the corners, the left and right side, and then down the center, making sure that we're not shifting the fabric around. So the first step that I did was to add the coconut fiber to the arm, and you'll notice that the coconut fiber stops just a little shy of the edge. We don't want it to go all the way up. And so the teacher told me, hey, just put a couple staples there at the top, hold it in place. You don't want it to shift around. Stay right there along the line, along the edge of that chair. So that's where I had the coconut fiber stop, and just put a couple of staples in there. And you also want to make sure that you fluff it up. You don't want any lumps. And I tend to let my coconut fiber get a little lumpy. So just make sure that you're tearing it apart and it's not too lumpy. But yeah, go ahead and put a couple of staples there just to hold it in place. Next, I cut some layers of cotton batting to put over the wings. And the thing I just had to make sure of is that it was not too large. So I don't want it hanging off the sides. I want to have it where it's just hitting the edge of the chair. And I put 2 layers because my cotton batting was a little thin and we want it to be thick. So I just put 2 layers and then took my scissors and just cut along the shape of the chair, of the curved part of the wing, making sure that it didn't really come over, but that it lined up with the side of that chair. The next step was to cut a layer of dacron to put over the wings of the chair. Now, this is where the teacher kind of lost me a little, because I wouldn't have known to have done this. Just because he has the experience, he knows. But that little cut out there in the dacron is to fit around the arm of the chair. So it just kind of wraps around the back just a little bit. And I wouldn't have known to do that, but of course, he's the professional. He knows how to do it. So we did that. Anyway, before putting that dacron on, though, I folded under the edge of the cotton batting. You want to kind of build up the edge of this chair, of the wings. And so folding it under helps to create that shape that the wing will have. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Great thing to learn. So just fold that under, and you don't want to staple it. But when you put the dacron over top of it, it should fit nicely, and then you'll be able to pull your fabric up over it and staple it. And speaking of the fabric for the wings, the teacher also did that same cutout that he did on the dacron on the fabric. So you see that little cutout which would wrap just around the edge. And he also sewed on some of the cording right along that edge of that shape. And when the cording was sewn along that edge, when it was time to apply it to the chair where my thumb is, that's where we tacked it on the side. And then all the way here where my index finger is, we tacked it there, we stapled it in, and then pulling that fabric up would make it really tight. And then we could use a series of relief cuts right along that curve of the wing in order to help smooth out any of those wrinkles. So the teacher had done the right side. He had done this one, and then I tackled the left, and I was so excited because I did a good job. He explained it to me perfectly. And again, you have to fit this fabric around the edge of the wood. It has to go with the curve. It has to be able to, hug it very nicely, very tightly. And you don't want any wrinkles. So you see how the fabric was stapled in here? There's no wrinkles and it looks really good. So I did the left side and it turned out great. So thank you, instructor, because I feel like it was my little mini success. All right. So the back part, we started, but we didn't actually finish it. I put a lot of coconut fiber. The main thing that he was telling me about the back is that when you push your hand on that, you do not want to feel any of the springs. So add enough coconut fiber so that it feels nice and soft. If you feel any springs, go ahead and add some more coconut fiber. And again, you want to stop right along that edge. So I did enough coconut fiber, and then I did some of the cotton batting, and just making sure that we didn't shove it in there. We just wanted to gently push it in there, because if you start, shoving it in there, you're gonna possibly expose some of the springs. You're gonna make that coconut fiber shift around. And you see here the shape of the chair. So I was just throwing that stuff on there, and the teacher's like, no, you have to maintain the shape of the chair. So just be mindful if you have any shapes, you have to kind of maintain that shape of the chair. So that's part 8 of how I'm reupholstering this wingback chair from the thrift store for $60. Although the amount of money that I've spent, I probably could have bought at least 10 chairs. Upholstering is not cheap. Don't let anybody tell you. So part 9 will be coming out very soon, probably in the next week or two. I am all out of upholstery classes. So the next video is all going to be me. And I'm going to have to rely on everything that I've learned from this awesome teacher over the last 9 months, 10 months. So cross your fingers because I'm a little nervous. Anyway, be sure to subscribe. Come back again because you don't want to miss what we're doing here at Thrift Diving. You don't want to miss this chair makeover and seeing what it looks like when we are totally done. I can't wait to sit in this chair and work on my knitting. I love knitting. Anyway, I will see you next video. Be sure to subscribe. Give this a thumbs up if you've been enjoying this series. And go to thriftdiving.com. Be sure to subscribe. And I'll give you 5 ebooks, printables, checklist just for subscribing. So I'll see you next video.